So today's video is all about cymbals. I'm going to be talking about the different types of cymbals on the kit, their role in what you do with them when you play, and then also the anatomy of a cymbal, the different parts of the cymbal, and how those parts affect the type of cymbal that it becomes based on what kind of parts those have, and that affects the sound that the cymbal creates. So we'll get right into it. I'm going to do an overhead view here so you can see, and I'm going to walk you through the entire kit, and then we will go from there. So the first cymbal we talk about is the hi-hat cymbal. It is two cymbals, a bottom and a top, and they are played with the pedal. And move up and down like so. So you can open and close the hi-hats as you play them with a stick. Now these originated as what was called sock cymbals. They called it the sock cymbal because it was down around the level of your sock. It was a very short post, unlike this, which is now way more elongated, so that you can play it with your sticks. And I believe it was Louis Armstrong's drummer Baby Dodds who first decided to start playing it with his left hand, and so one of the drum companies decided to make him a tall pedal so that he could do that. Next on the kit, we're going to talk about are the crash cymbals. I have four. There are multiple various sizes you could do. It's pretty unlimited, really. I prefer bigger crash cymbals. So here we have the 18-inch AA Explosion Crash. We have a 20-inch AA Raw Bell Crash. We have a 21-inch AA Bash Ride. Now you'll notice these are all Sabian. That's the brand I play, and I'm very brand loyal when it comes to my stuff that I play. I've always loved Sabian cymbals ever since I switched to them about 9 years ago. Never been disappointed with anything I've bought from them. So that's why I play them. They sound great. They hold up great. 5 stars from me. So yeah, here's the AA 21-inch Bash Ride. And so it's actually a crash ride. They call it the Bash. It is actually a crash ride. So it actually has a good profile, which I'll get into the different parts of that in a minute, and it has a good bell as well. But I mainly use it as a crash. It's got a lot of warmth to it. It's real loud. And then this is a 22-inch prototype from Sabian. It actually, I think, is more of a ride. I bought it secondhand. It's kind of got a lot of wash to it though, so it makes for a good crash. I've used it for both scenarios. I used it for a ride for a while, and then I switched it out for a different one. And now it's become a crash, but I love it. Like I said, it's a prototype, so it's not really one or the other. Okay, the next cymbal we're going to talk about is the ride cymbal. Now, your ride cymbal, you pretty well play the same parts you would play on your hi-hats, to keep your time. And I'll do a demonstration here in a minute of all this. But the ride cymbal, usually for the choruses of the song, is where you would use the ride cymbal by and large. There are exceptions, of course, but most people do. So now this is an AA 22-inch crash ride. So it actually has a good crash on it too. It's kind of like the Bash Ride. It's just a little brighter. The bell is a little bit bigger and more depth to the bell. It's a little thicker. And then the next The next type of cymbal on the list are the effect cymbals. So first we'll start with the splashes. These are just real little crashes. They're very thin, very small. This is an 8-inch AAX splash. Real bright, short decay. And the next is a 10-inch AAX air splash. This one, the 20-inch raw bell crash and the 21-inch bash ride were all winners of Sabian's cymbal vote that they do online, and let the consumer vote on what they think that their next product they put out should be. So they do a bunch of prototypes, and this one was one of the winners as well as those other two. But I really like it. It's kind of trashy, but just the right amount of splash, for lack of a better word. You can hear it's a lot darker than the other. That one usually is my main go-to splash cymbal, though. If I had to take one of the two off, that would be it. So then the next on the effect list that I find most useful is the China cymbal. Now you can see this looks like it's inverted, and it's actually upside down. This is an 18-inch AAX Extreme Chinese. Very, very loud, very quick decay, very trashy. It's meant to kind of sound like a gong. And I use that quite a bit. If I had to pick one effect cymbal to go with my kit, it would be the China cymbal, and then close second would be the splash. So then I also have a ice bell here. This is a 7-inch Sabian ice bell. Just a real high pitch, long ringing bell, just for some effect stuff. And then I also use, I've got several effect cymbals here all stacked together in this nifty hi-hat clamp. I've got a 16-inch Octagon Crash, which I'll try to see if you can see that under there. It's hard to tell, but it was one of Sabian's older products, and it's made in the shape of an octagon. They called it the Octagon. On top, I have another one of their discontinued series. It was the XS20, and then this is what's called an Ozone Crash. So it's got these big ozone holes in it. And then in between, it's hard to see in here, but I have another effect, which is 3 pieces of metal stacked together. They call it a chopper. It's 3 pieces of different shapes of metal riveted together to make a circle formation. All of those stacked together make for a pretty cool side hi-hat. All right, so now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna do a real overhead shot and just kind of go through and play each of them a little bit so you can kind of get an idea of how they fit in. Just in like a general sense, every cymbal kind of has its place in what you do for it, or what you use it for, rather. Like I explained, the hi-hats and ride cymbal, they help keep your time. That's usually a pretty steady beat that you keep on those 2 cymbals. everything else, like most art forms, it's subjective. There are times where you could use crashes, you can use the splashes, you could use the china, any kind of effect in there. I tend to gravitate more toward the loud accents are the ones that I use the crashes on. So like the beginning of each 4-bar phrase usually will get a crash, or the beginning of each measure sometimes, depending on how fast the music is or how bombastic it is, how loud it is. So it'll sound something like this, just in general. So that was like a 4-bar. You could also use it, you can use them more often than that if you want to. So like if it was something, say it was like a metal song that we're doing. And then if I want something like a crash sound with a real quick decay and maybe not so loud, I'll use the splash instead. So if I'm playing something like a little more poppy or a little more softer than the real heavy crashing stuff. So there's no right or wrong answer to any of it. It's subjective. So take that how you want to, and then in the videos you'll kind of see how I lay that out. And then all my other videos on YouTube, you can check those out as well. During the songs, you'll see that normally during the verses I play the hi-hats, and normally during the choruses I'll play the ride or a crash ride. Depending on the song, but typically there is kind of a rule of thumb there, but everything else as far as the effects and the crashes, there's not really any rules. You just do what feels right for the music at that time. So next we're going to talk about the anatomy of a cymbal, the different parts of it, and what makes each cymbal unique and in what kind of sounds they make. So I'm going to use my 22-inch crash ride here as the model here to show you the difference in the parts of the cymbals. So the edge here, also known as the crash area, is pretty self-explanatory. When you go to crash a cymbal, you hit it there. Between there and the bell, which we'll talk about next, between those 2 points is called the profile. And then, like I said, the middle part of the cymbal is called the bell. So each of those parts of the cymbal gives them their own characteristics. If it's got a really thin profile, the cymbal is going to be very explosive, very loud. If it's got a small bell, it will be higher pitched. If it's got a bigger bell, it will be kind of lower pitched, and especially if it's a very thick bell. Each cymbal kind of has its own voice and purpose on the kit, and I have quite a few, as you can see in the video there. I just prefer to have all those options, all the different sonic options for that. And I've even got a couple others here and the kit across from me over here. Well, I'll swap them out occasionally. I've got a couple different ride cymbals. This is another China cymbal. This is an AA metal Chinese. It's just a little bit, it's not quite as loud. It's a little bit darker sounding, but it's a little bit quieter. So I don't tend to use that one as much. And when I do, it's my left side China cymbal, not my main one, unless I'm doing something lower volume, in which case that will be the cymbal of choice there on my right hand side. So today's video was kind of shorter, but that's pretty much all it is. And each cymbal you've seen here does have its place. So I'm going to play some more just to give you a little bit of a taste of kind of what I use them for. And that'll pretty much wrap it up for today. Not a whole lot to that. I mean, I could go into the history of the cymbals and all this and that, but I'm not going to bore you with all that. Just like I wouldn't bore a brand new student with all of that right out the gate. We build up to that. So I hope you enjoyed today, and I'll catch you next time.